wild.
Yeah.
And all the babies lose their minds.
Yo, by the way, I heard you, Kay, add in some baby noises in one of the episodes recently.
Oh man, they're in all the episodes, dude.
They were too subtle before.
Every time a guest comes on, we get the baby clown.
Yo, just make sure you make it clear it's not our babies.
Right.
right. We're fresh off South by Southwest. You guys got home safe?
Yeah.
Well, you know, my mission, the Boeings get grounded, we get super cyclones, and then, of course, my flight is the one that's delayed. Or no, not delayed. My flight got canceled altogether.
Yeah.
So just in the realm of fatherhood, as soon as I got off the plane, I went straight to got home, and as soon as I got home, it was in the car to go pick up my son from school.
Did you plan that way?
Nah, it was just happened that way. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was about to say, damn, your scheduling game is insane. I need to learn.
That's that dedication. That's a T-shirt. Dedication.
Woo! I like that, man.
Hold on, let me pop this collar right quick. Hold up.
Do a quick Google image search on that though. Make sure we're not getting,
we can't copyright
too much. Might be like 20 different T-shirts out there.
God damn it.
So,
but you guys, obviously we have fun at South by, but you guys had fun?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah. Like I was describing the weekend or the few days we were over there to a friend of mine, and because they were wondering like, yo, South by still going on. Why aren't you guys there? And I was like, nah, see, what had happened was we were real strategic about how we went out there because
it's like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
right.
That shit's forever, man.
Right.
It's like never ending.
But we also decided to go, during basically midweek, so we would avoid a lot of the craziness. But what I found most interesting was, I looked at it as like a what's that called? Like a bonding opportunity with you guys, like a dad bonding, right? But but not necessarily a party, right? More just like us kicking it. But it was dope. I think we did a great job balancing our alcohol with business.
And we also know to a degree our limits, like especially in this age, we're like, all right, we're done. The night is over.
Yeah. Time for donuts.
The way I explained it to my girl is like nowadays we know we have one good day. That's why I was on your guys' cases for going the day before me. I'm like, don't lose that one day. Don't run out.
Yeah. One good day of full steam ahead, and then the other days.
That first day we were good,
cool
man.
It's cool out time.
So
word up.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Here's a question. So this is not necessarily like a super parenting topic, but one that I've been thinking of. Let's talk a little bit about our opinions on rappers and their sons who have come out and done music on their own. And are they good? Are they not good? And it's really just more not to diss anyone, but it's more of I'm just curious on your take on some of the kids who have come out and started doing stuff on their own. What you guys think?
I think it's a difficult shadow to get from under, especially if, assuming that your father or mother, for that matter, had a great career and whatnot. I haven't seen too many of the kids of any of these artists really pick up. One of the ones notably though, Big Pun's kid,
Chris Rivers.
Yeah. And it's not what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I feel like he's someone who stands on his own. Like he's got a similarity in terms of flow, but he's also pretty distinct in his own, and makes pretty dope music. So
I wonder if the unfortunate truth that fact that his father's not around is a part of the that he's able to really create his own lane,
right?
Because he's not under that shadow in the sense because his father's not around with us right now.
You know who else? I'm sorry, but you know who else is surprised? I saw him live. I think it was a Rolling Loud, and it was Jaden Smith. And I wasn't sure what to make of his music, but he's got his own lane too. He's pretty damn good.
When you said
for what he does,
when you posed your question, that's the first artist that came to mind was him because you know, as far as Will Smith goes, Will was considered kind of real commercial, you know, for a large part of
Right.
his career. Then he crossed over to acting. I mean, still well respected, but that was kind of his lane that people considered. So when I heard that his son was getting into music and you know his daughter's also into music, I was I was like, I don't know, for the same reasons that you know E mentioned, like it's really hard to get out from under those shadows. But he's been able to carve out a pretty powerful lane on his own, which I'm not 100% on board with his music, but there's some bangers that I'm like, oh shit, all right, I could flow with that. So
I think the difference with him, sorry, man.
No.
I think the difference with him, though, that I've noticed, other than some of the other kids, is that he's evolved and he's really like, he's gone through all these phases and seems to have like worked through it. And it seems like from a distance that the parents are allowing the kids to like, okay, you know, figure it out on your own and go through the pitfalls and do this kind of music and it doesn't work. And then, you know, and then it's like become an artist, a real artist, where some of the other kids I feel just want like that quick, like impatience. Like I just want to be on because my father was so-and-so or my mother was so-and-so. So I want to be on, and they don't really have skills. And then if they fall flat on their face, they don't really take the time to kind of go through the motions again to evolve and learn, you know, what it is that they want to do. And I feel like he has, like I've seen his evolution, not just in music and acting, but also he's like now an entrepreneur and a philanthropist, and he's doing all these other things that kind of is creating this you know, human being, this creating like who he is as an adult is what I'm trying to say. And I don't see that in many other of these kids, you know.
Who else is there? There's Diggy.
Diggy's dope, yeah.
There's King Combs, who's that's Diddy's son.
All the kids too.
Yeah.
I think almost all of them are artists. Benzino's son, I believe he didn't have. Wasn't that one of the first groups? Wasn't it
like
Pun's kid?
Ray and
wasn't Pun's kid? Yeah.
I think so. Could be wrong, but yeah, I remember they had a group together, right? There's
Yeah.
the two little kids together.
Wasn't it three of them? It was three kids.
Might have been, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So, and now, you know, talking about kids, Nori's youngest, Noah, he's in that. If you watch that Nickelodeon commercial for the awards, he's the kid bouncing the basketball in the beginning, and then DJ Khaled, like the thing goes over the city and it says DJ Khaled. So he's jump starting his acting career, and I think he's got a lead in like a Nickelodeon pilot or something. But he's you know following in entertainment footsteps.
Right.
His father.
Has Nori been grooming him to do that, or do you know much about that?
I can't tell you that I've seen that myself. I don't know. I can't call it. And you know, it's funny that you bring that up because my girl actually brought up if I wanted that for our daughter. Not that specifically, like just in general, like if I want to go down that route, like now, like get her into. And my whole take on it is like, you know, I don't know that I want to like start grooming her from a baby. Like maybe taking some innocent like Gerber baby pictures if she got some jobs like that right now is innocent because she doesn't really know what it is. But I don't know if I want to groom her from now and then kind of like get her into acting as a little kid and modeling or whatever. Because I just would like for her to just be a kid. And then if she decides at some point, oh, daddy or mommy, I want to do that, then maybe, you know, and it's funny, we had that discussion today.
Yeah, I mean, that's a scary thought to put your kids in that in not necessarily music, but just entertainment in general when they're young. Because look at all the horror stories you hear about all the child actors and how screwed up they get.
Says Pixelation K.
Right.
No, but
my son wouldn't have any problem being in front of them. Like he's totally the opposite of me, where you know he likes to be, you know, front and center, that kind of thing. And we're always getting all the time just random people like, yo, how come your son is not doing commercials or doing X, Y, and Z? And yeah, I don't know about all that though.
With it. What I mean, if he at this age, he's 6, right? So if he came to UK and was like, Dad, I think I want to pursue this, would you support that, or would you, you know, basically tell him all the reasons why you don't think that's a good idea?
No, I mean, I'd support it to the point where I can actively be involved, especially at this, at a younger age.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a little harder to like persuade or try to move them into something else when they're a little bit older. But I think now, like if he was like, yeah, I really need to, I want to do it, and he was super serious about it, because again, kids, especially this age, one minute they say, oh, I want to be a DJ. Next minute they say,
Right.
I want to be a archaeologist.
Yeah.
They're like jumping around left and right. So you really have to kind of like put them in the mix a little bit. Like if they are super, at least from my son, like when he seems somewhat serious about doing something and he keeps kind of bringing it up, then we'll introduce it to him or put him in the mix of it a little bit and see if he actually is something that he's into or if it's just kind of a passing thing. But yeah, I'd support him.
I think that at his age, and I think Nori's son is around that or maybe a little bit older, but is the right, if they're saying that they want to try it, it's worth trying. If they're, you kind of have to gauge, and your children, if they're serious, and you explain it, and it might teach them some work ethic stuff that might be good in it. But then you also have to be that parent that at some point, if they lose interest or they don't want to do it anymore, then you back off. There's some of these parents that they want for their kid what they couldn't do in life.
Absolutely.
Right? And they become obsessed with it. And that's the issue too, never mind the publicity and celebrity, weird Hollywood stuff, but that part becomes, like the kid takes on the burden of the parent,
I see it all the time in sports. So like, I'm a big sports buff. My kids, I try to push them in that direction. And my oldest daughter, she's 12. I feel like at the earlier stages of her life, maybe call it 5 years of age, I was definitely pushing her into basketball. Like she had like the mildest interest because she knew I liked basketball. So I took full advantage of that, and I was like, yo, we're going to go try you out and try to get you involved in this shit. And then she started to, get a knack for it because I saw in her a raw talent that is hard to come by. So I was like, we got to groom this shit if nothing else, just for her to wet her beak a little bit. And then we got to this like plateau at like 10 or 11, and I was still pushing her, but then when I noticed that, I backed off and I said, look, you're not disappointing me if you decide you want to do something different. But it didn't click to her. Like she was still feeling like if she decided to quit, that she was disappointing me. So I had to beat that into her head like, yo, it's not about me anymore. Like, yeah, admittedly, I was pushing the shit out of this, but now it's like you're at a point where you got to decide for yourself if this is something of interest. And she kind of went back and forth, and we were in teams and out of teams. But then this kind of reemergence happened, I'd say maybe a year ago. And she was like, yo, I want in. And we got her into more teams. And this past weekend, we signed her up with a new AAU program here in the Bronx. And it was the training. So to put it in perspective, it's training. They weren't like scrimmaging or playing actual basketball games. They were just focused on conditioning and getting them into the habit of doing certain techniques. That practice lasted 2 hours. Midway through, she was ready to throw up, is how hard they were going. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, now you got to tell me what you're ready to do. Because this is a perfect opportunity for you to grab a scapegoat. And I'm not going to get on your case. If you don't feel like you want to go through this shit again, it's fine. And she decided, she went outside, got some air, came back inside, and kept going. She was like, nah, I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep going. I was like, whoa. So now she fell in love again.
I find this, like the whole activity thing or trying to figure out what his interests are and how to guide that to be a little difficult sometimes because, again, like I don't want to be that overbearing parent that's like, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. But at the same time, it's like also sometimes if we don't push a little bit and say, no, you should try it, you might like it, or you should go even if you don't feel like it because it teaches you just kind of being consistent, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I have a hard time with that sometimes. My wife is a little bit better at that than I am in terms of, he might say, I really don't feel like going today. Do I have to go every day? And, she'll be able to kind of shake that off. And I'm more like, yeah, why don't you stay? Why don't you go do something different today?
We also can't. I don't think we should underestimate young children knowing what they want. Sometimes, like I'll give you an example. My goddaughter, who's now, shit, I think she's about to be 22.
She is Paul's daughter.
Yeah,
Yeah, he told me she's gonna be 22.
yeah. So from I'm talking about like super young, probably around your son's age. Okay.
Okay.
She was always all about being a veterinarian. Playing with the little stuffed animals, and that was like her thing, and she always said it, and then, whatever she said it, for as long as she was a little kid, and then junior high, and then in high school they got her in a program where there was a high school that had a veterinary program. She stuck with it. She passed that with flying colors, and then ended up now she's in college, and I think she passed. I mean, she's been doing it forever. Like that's what she's gonna do for her career. And what's dope about identifying that and supporting that young and making sure you nurture that without being like, overbearing on it is that at least now, if they know what they want, they kind of get a head start.
Yeah.
And that's super helpful. And that goes with whether it's acting or sports or whatever. And back to the sports, I don't know if we talked about this with Paul, who we had in South by Southwest as well with us. Because he's heavy into sports with his kids, and they do multiple sports. Like they'll be in baseball league and basketball and football. And I get tired just even hearing all the stuff that they're doing. And I was like, telling Paul, like, how do you, like, do you push this on them? Like, how do you, like, don't they ever want to not do it? And he was telling me that he actually, he shows them on the calendar, like this month or these 2 months right here, this is your off period. You're not doing any sports. You're going to rest. You're going to do other things that's not sports related. And then the seasons will start again. And this is your baseball season. And this is your football season. But he's like, they want to do it. But he's also making sure that he not only, like he imposes that this is a break period for them, but that he tells them like, now you have to think of, now just resting, or you don't have to think about sports, or think about other things you want to do outside of sports to make sure that, it's not just 24/7, this robotic athlete,
Yeah. I do want to bring up something, and it's kind of going to be a tangent, but Kay sent us an article about why our kids aren't really growing up. I mean, that was a headline on that USA Today article by a lady named
Lawnmower.
Yeah, so we talked about helicopter parents on a previous episode. Now that the new wave is a lawnmower parent or bulldozer parent, I think was the other way.
That was the other one.
So I think that's an amazing. When you talked about it earlier, E, where as it related to the kids of artists, you got parents in general, and this kind of ties into the whole scandal with Ivy League, getting paid to go to Ivy Leagues and all that. You got parents not allowing their kids to fail, right, to some extent, and that is creating a need for these kids to rely on their parents well after they really should. And I think we've talked about it on many of these podcasts and in our own personal conversations, how we feel about that. But like, that is additional ammunition in my book for why we got to back off in certain cases and allow our kids to go through some of the heartache. Obviously, we never want to see our kids suffer, but at the same time, if they don't go through some mild experiences where they're challenged or there is failure on the horizon, they're going to be stuck in the future.
Didn't they say something in the article about like even parents of older kids and kids in their 20s, even 30s, like the parents are calling their bosses at work if there's issues at work.
Yeah,
and trying to straighten shit out.
That shit is nuts, B. Where does that come from? Yo, let a parent.
I wouldn't know what to do if a parent called me up.
I'll tell you what I would do. If their parent called me, I'd be like, yo, you better back the fuck up because we could go outside. Nah, it don't make no sense. But I thought it was a time. I mean, you said that shit right on time because we were talking about that shit, I think, in South by. And so shout out to Sonja Haller. That's the lady at USA Today that wrote that article. It's a good article. It's called "Kids Aren't Growing Up. Shocking New Poll Says Parents Are Killing Kids' Life Skills." If you guys are interested.
not to be confused with Latino parents, Cuban to be exact on my end, is that the parents will let their kids live with them till their 30s and 40s. I have some cousins they still, I mean, they live in the house. Their parents, unfortunately, my aunt passed away, and they're still there. Like one of the siblings is unmarried and never left the house.
See, I
You
think
know?
I think there's a difference in that, I guess living with families and having a household of extended family can be a cultural thing as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah, yeah.
to where
No, it's totally different because it's a responsibility thing that we're talking about as well. And
right, where, a kid can't even, figure out how to maneuver at a job or how to,
right.
maneuver themselves at school or anything really without the parents stepping in and doing everything for them.
Yeah, and what happens is with the way I'm talking about is that the child ends up taking care of the parent. What we're
Right.
talking about here is the parents still taking care of the children
Right.
emotionally and physically, everything. You know?
I was talking to several kids at my old high school recently, and all inner city kids. Like we all grew up, the kids that go there now and me, we all grew up in the Bronx or in one of the five boroughs. And I told them, having had experience working with high level executives at big companies, I told them what I did not discount when I was having meetings or talking to different people was me being from the Bronx. And I don't mean it like I'm a thug or nothing like that. Like it's none of that. But there's an essence and a level of street savvy that you generate from living in these environments that can be leveraged as very positive experiences that translate very well in corporate environments. So I was explaining to them how I was able to flip what typically is considered like an edgy, you know, negative in a lot of cases upbringing to something that has helped me succeed in the corporate world. And they were kind of like, "Oh shit!" Like it didn't dawn on them that they had that in them as well, given that they were raised in a similar environment. And I was like, "Look," and I was very clear to them. I was like, "I'm not saying walk up into a company, pants sagging, nigga this, fuck that. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you got almost a sixth sense that you know how to read a room, you know how to conduct yourself in a particular manner when the time is appropriate. In a lot of cases, we become chameleons, right? In when we grow up in these environments because it's a survival tactic. Like in one moment we look like this, in another moment we got to look like that because we gotta be able to balance a lot of the situations and scenarios that come about. A lot of people don't have those skill sets in the corporate environment. They're very much on one track. So I'm like, yo, if you think that you can't reach certain heights because of where you come from, yo, kick that shit to the curb because that should not be the excuse. And I left and I saw them like a light bulb like went off in their heads. So I was like, oh shit, all right, there's a next wave hopefully coming from some of these conversations.
And that's the trap that we run into with our kids sometimes. If we came up in a, more of a hard knock environment, or we had to figure a lot of stuff out for ourselves, and then we're thankful that we can offer our kids more stability and all that good stuff. But then, how do we teach them that edge as well?
Yeah.
Will we do that school that we said we were going to do?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, our amusement park, School of Hard Knocks.
Our fatherhood, School of Hard
School
Knocks.
of common sense, man. I think the kids are lacking common sense more than anything.
Yeah.
So you have a foundation of common sense. Sky's the limit for you.
It's a fact.
So we got a guest today, right, gents?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. All right,
Talking about the family business.
All right. Family business. Yes, let's bring him on.
So I got my friend, my homie, home team homie, Michael Corleone Blanco, son of Griselda Blanco. Currently got a show, Cartel Crew on VH1, amongst many things that he's doing. Give it up for my boy Mike right here, Michael Corleone Blanco.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you.
What else? You got a bunch of other things going on. Before we get into the fatherhood stuff, what else you got going on?
We have a couple things going on as well in the 420 community, in the DAB community. We have new projects coming out that I'm working on being executive producer as well. And just, the same thing, pumping the brand, trying to get gigs on new motion pictures and even short films, just because that's my passion.
Right.
But besides that, the book is coming out. We got the toys coming out. We got all kinds of things coming out.
Nice. Carrying on, we were just talking about like kids of artists, basically trying to be artists themselves. I mean, your situation is different, but in a sense, you're carrying on the family business in your own way, right?
Yeah. I have this conversation with my boys. My boys, the ones that are here, 14 and 12. And, they're hip kids. They're into hip hop. One wants to be a rapper. The other one is a mixed martial artist. And it's a constant talk about entrepreneurism, I guess, and trying to teach them how to be their own bosses and just letting them know that it's a different day, that nowadays this is what men should try to be successful and have multiple revenue streams so they can provide for their family. So basically just letting them know that hustling runs in their blood.
And what's your dynamic? I mean, as far as how many kids do you have and all that good stuff?
I got four.
Okay.
I have 3 boys and 1 daughter.
What are the ages?
One I haven't been able to really raise because, unfortunately, I had to flee from Colombia when one of my brothers was assassinated almost 4 months later. So I wasn't able to really raise him. So I've been raising him from a distance, WhatsApp, Skype, and stuff like that. My other boys live relatively close by. Within a couple of minutes, I could be at my kid's front door. And as you can hear, my beautiful princess, me and Marie's girl, she's right here playing with the doggy, Kilo. Little under the weather, so I just finished doing the nebulizer. Just gave her a nice hot bath with the vapor rub going on the sink, the heat-activated vapor.
Got the whole technique.
Daddy duty. I got to stop for this. Because all my kids have had congestional problems. It like runs in my family. My mom had bronchial problems, died. So I keep the vaporizer running for her when she's a little congested.
What are all their ages, Mike? What are the ages of all the kids?
14, 12, 2 years old, and my son in Colombia just turned 18 years old.
Wow, you got an adult in the midst.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
So Michael, this is Manny Digital. I'm interested to know. We kind of like to start, from your own personal fatherhood story. Like, how was your upbringing, specifically as it relates to your dad, but I think generally as it relates to your parents?
I had to grow up real quick. I had a crazy upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys seen documentaries and projects that I maybe consulted on, and that's not the half of it. I had, I don't want to say tragic. It was a little tragic. I lost my innocence when I was a real young man. As I was a kid, my childhood years, I guess you could say, were the best years of my life with my family. Of course, I had freaking tigers, lions, and bears. I had ponies. I had very lavish lifestyle, name it. I had it. And I was real close to my mother and my father, right? My mother, she was, the love of my life. My father he was my hero, but he was more of, I guess you could say he was my father. Criminalistically, I knew what he was up to. So I kind of idolized my brother more that was younger. And I always imitated my family, which is the sad truth, but hey, it's part of the game.
And for those that may not know, like if they watched the Cocaine Cowboys, which is probably one of the more famous ones, they would.
Yeah.
Was it your father?
My father's Rubén Darío Sepúlveda.
The one
the brother
that got killed, right?
My brother. Yeah, my father got killed. His brother was one of the orchestrators of the Dayland Mall massacre. They were the first enforcers for Griselda in Colombia and here. They were the original pistoleros, the original cocaine cowboys. It was run by a gang called Los Pistoleros. And that was my father, my uncle, and then later on Rivy in the late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, my father was Colombia's most famous bank robber.
Oh, wow.
And he was an actor. That's why my mom called him an actor, because in his movie, he was the leading man. Porsche 911, racing suit and gloves, motorcycles. Everything was gold nuggets, bulletproof Lincoln, bulletproof Mercedes limos, Rolls Royces and Ferraris. He was that 6 foot tall, good looking man from the movie. And my mother fell in love. And one thing that I can say was a beautiful thing, seeing them love each other and seeing them, I guess, be okay with this luxurious mob life. It was exciting until I was 6 years old. And then I had to bury my father. And then 2 years later, my whole family was incarcerated, including my mother. So then I got shipped to an orphanage.
Wow.
Los Angeles, LA County orphanage. Yeah, and I was there for a couple months until another mafioso came and got me, and then we kept it moving.
So how did that? I mean, that's interesting. I didn't realize that that's how it went down. But
it's in my book. I would love to send you guys a copy as soon as I get this little publishing deal squared away.
Okay, so it's not out yet.
No, it's finished.
Okay,
it's finished. I'm just finished I'm finishing basically the contract with a prominent publishing company that I can't disclose.
Okay, so we'll get away from having you disclose things in the book, because we want to make sure you get that paper.
That's what's up.
So when you lost your dad, and going back to because what's interesting, and you noted it, is that when you look at the documentaries and all that stuff, your mom is obviously someone in the documentaries not to be fucked with or anything like that. But then, you did mention the softer side of your mom and your dad, showing their affection for each other. I mean, how did that affect your family dynamic, you and her, and were you able to see it affect her like that, the loss of your dad?
Yeah, definitely. Even in her later years, it affected her much. I mean, she never remarried, or she never had another man in her life. It was just the boys. And even being a fugitive, a lot of people don't understand that. Okay, you see, like the Soprano type of family thing with the Italians, and the father that goes out and he comes home. Our family was run by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So believe it or not, her dynamics was to be the woman of the house, the mother of the house. Everybody had to sit down at a certain time. If the boys weren't around, well, tomorrow you guys are expected for dinner. And I don't care if you're on the other side of Florida or whatever, we're all having a family dinner tomorrow, 9 o'clock, be here. And that was my mom. And she celebrated all, like, her children's achievements. My mother was real strict. For example, I think it was not 84, but the World Cup in Argentina. I think that was 1980. She was invited by somebody in Argentina to go to the Cup. So everybody's getting ready, bodyguards, limos taking off to the planes. Everybody's going from Medellin to Argentina to just stay during the whole World Cup as guests. And everybody's getting ready. My brother, Uber, the playboy, he was running down the steps with his stuff. His girlfriend was even there. And as they were getting to the car, my mom just stopped and goes, "Everybody's ready." "Yeah, everybody but you, young man." "Why?" "Because you failed. I think it was algebra. He failed something."
Wow.
And she goes, "Hate to do it to you, yeah, but that's your business, and you're not taking care of your business. Yeah, so you're not coming." That's right there. And my brother told me that story years later. He goes, "Yo, boy, you're the young in the house," because my mother spoiled me. I couldn't do wrong in my mother's eyes. Even when I got incarcerated in Colombia for organized crime, even then it was like he didn't mean to do it. He just fucked up. Bad examples, and the truth is I was my mama's ñaña, and she was way stricter with my other brothers than me. And I guess that, made a difference in my life. That is, she was my best friend. She was my hero. Yeah.
So So fast forward into like right when you're, I guess, having your first son. I mean, I know you've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations and had a wild life up until this point. When you had your first son, your first kid, were you planning to have a family, or was it kind of by surprise? And regardless of that, I mean, how did that change your outlook on how you wanted your kid's life to be, if any?
Good question. To be completely honest, I really didn't understand fatherhood probably until my second child. My other boy, my eldest was born, well, not my eldest, the one here, the oldest one in the States, was born in 2004. So you can ask E, around that time, I was still running the streets. So I was still like trapped in my criminalistic ways, thinking that it's okay, now I'm a father. So now I have another responsibility. Boy, you need to get more money.
Right.
Now you got to step it up. Now I got to think about, now I got to more milk, more 100 Pampers a month. Okay, now I need this. Wait, I'm living all right, but now the kid needs a room, and I need to buy toys, and the lady has to be right. And I was still, okay, let me see how many bricks I can sell this month, or what I can do this month to get this money right. And then I can chill out and hide at home with my kids. My main outlook, it's kind of weird to say, gentlemen, and I know people that work probably in entertainment like us, sometimes you either have no time or sometimes you have a surplus of time
Right.
on your table, right? And I guess that helps us to always not be 9-to-5ers. So you could take out 3-4 days of the week and just be with your kids. And that's what I was taught from my family. It's like, yo, we don't live to work. We work to live. So enjoy your family. So we always had crazy vacations, or I'd always come home and my brothers would be, yo, what's up? Cook. Everybody invite your friends. We're having a shebang. Good job, you know? And it's okay, I get it. So I guess I always wanted to be that guy that I didn't have nothing to bitch about. So I needed more money in order to stay with my kids and take them places, or just provide for them. But I was still running the streets, and I thought that it was just another responsibility to live this lifestyle and get this money right and all that. Then when my other kid was born, I got caught up in some shit, and I remember dropping off my kid at the daycare and saying, yo, this is the last day I see my kid. And then later on, when I was released, I was hugging my boy, and I said to myself, you know what? You're old. You're a daddy. This is the second one. What happened if you never see that? What would have happened if you would never see this kid again? And then that shit put me in a state of shock. And I said to myself, yo, you got to come up with a lick. And at that same time, I would run into EFN a lot. Why? Because EFN had always been a stand-up guy in town. He was doing his hip-hop. So I was getting into doing an entertainment company and trying to get out the dope game. But it was those days that everybody was wearing ice. And then it was just like, yo, I got to get out the game. And I was running around with my partner. My partner had his record business. And I'm like, yo, what are you guys doing? And I started, I guess, understanding that people were into this bad guy type of brand. And then I said, yo, one day I'm going to do a clothing line. I'm going to do this. But right now, let me make that happen one day. So I got into the movie game. I got into the life rights business. And I studied the craft of buying and selling life rights. Yeah.
Damn.
To provide for these kids, because I couldn't sell no more dope or rob dope boys.
Yeah.
You get it? Yeah,
So no, that was a lot. Like I had some questions, and just listening to you. No.
I was on green screen for 80 days.
No. We need that.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing because
it's sobering too.
Yeah, you got me stuck because I'm like, holy. I felt like I was watching a movie. That's how captivating it was.
It's gonna shock you. Well, my book is very detailed.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who have that mentality right now still, right? Where it's the same mentality you had with your first child, is that, it's another responsibility. So you got to make more money, as opposed to how are you making the money, and is it going to take a lot of time away from your kids if you get caught up in something? So I think that's good for people to hear now, because there's a lot of that still going on today.
Definitely.
Well, so you have
it's weird. I guess it's different times, and
yeah.
and there's so much other ways to make money now. Early millennium, even mid millennium, we're still talking pre-Instagram.
Mhm.
Like, you really had to work for your reputation, or you really had to do, there was no faking.
Right.
If you were out there, you were out there. So it wasn't like, oh, these guys no, if I'm going to run my risk, I'm going to run it for my family. I'm going to get a shitload of money, and I'm going to retire for 6 months out of the year. And then for the other 6 months of the year, I'm going to come out, I'm going to ball on their ass, make sure my family is provided for, and I'm going to see how many licks I can hit, and then I'm going to hide again. And that was just my routine for the first couple of years of my second boy's life. After when he reached 2. And when he reached 2, I realized that I had to get out the streets because I was losing friends left and right. And shit got hot. And then it's like, yo, one of my friends got life, my partner in crime my whole life. He was one of the most famous jam boys out here from Carroll City and Hialeah area. And I remember being with him talking, and I told him, yo, dog, I'm doing something. Look, I'm about to sell my life rights. That was for my first motion picture agreement. And he's like, yeah, okay, bro. I see it. I go, you didn't just see that Cocaine Cowboy shit? And at the time, I remember I'd always run into EFN everywhere, and I would tell E, I go, E, what? I'm about to close a movie deal. And E would always support me. He'd be like, yeah, you might do that, kid. Yeah.
You had the story. You got the story.
What are your old?
That was the way.
What do your older kids think of your family history and your mom and your dad? What's their take on?
Do you even tell them everything depending on the age?
Okay, yeah, exactly. Because I went through that with my nephew as well. I had to tell him one time, and I'm here holding my baby girl. And the crazy thing is that I guess with my oldest, after it was too much, he was like, Papi, and then my mother always kept it real, gentlemen, but we got to understand that we grew up in this era that kids glorify that trapping shit, and they don't know the lyrics that they're repeating, and they think that anybody could be, BMF and Medellin Cartel, and the truth is that I had to break it to them before they were misguided. And I was incarcerated again. And I was put in, you okay, mama? I was put in solitary confinement for 6 months. And I disappeared for 6 months. So my kids were under the impression I was doing a production. And then those 6 months really did it to me. Like, those 6 months was, okay, now I got to be honest with my kid eventually. Right now, he's still thinking I was doing a production in Cali. So then when I came home, I saw the kid being a little more mature. Internet was out and all that. I mean, Cocaine Cowboys 2 had come out, and now people were Googling and this and that. And then I'm like, okay, I started doing TV when I was released, and I started doing, consultation on projects. So I was really on projects. So my kid, I remember one time before I was incarcerated, I showed up at a Burger King, and Papa, I got opening up the soup for the baby. Yeah, man.
Hey, handle your business. This is real life we talking about right now.
Yo, real life, for real. My Cuban Colombian daughter wants her papa because she's Cuban. So no me dice que me la sopa, papi la papa. And that's her slamming the microwave as I hold her in one hand, the phone in my ear, and press the minutes. Gentlemen, I do this shit every day. So yeah, so then somebody asked me for a picture. And that's when I would always run into E. What was that, E? 2007, 2008?
Yeah, around then.
Around that time. No, 2008, let's say. And, okay, yo, can I get a picture? And I'm like, yo, picture for what? And he's like, of you. And I'm like, I think you're tripping. And he's like, I'm like, you know who I am? I go, you know who I am? He goes, yeah. I go, where you know me from? I go, like, chill out, little homie, where you know me from? And he's like, I've seen you balling in the clubs and throwing money and doing this and doing that. And I said to myself, yo, that's crazy. And my kid's like, why do you want a picture, Daddy? I go, all right, Papi, I'm thinking it's because a lot of people kind of know me in town now because I got my record business. And I couldn't tell the kid, Daddy, is because Grandma was a famous mobster and your dad is a local trap boy, jack boy. I couldn't tell the kid that. I was still in fear to take the picture. I'm like, wait, will you know me? And then I snapped out of it, and I'm like, I gotta make something from this so I can really be, at least a B-class celebrity. And the picture's worth something instead of that ex-bad guy that's doing life.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Mike, are you ever, and if you don't want to talk about stuff like this, we could edit it out, but I've always wondered, like, are you ever worried about your safety and your family's safety based on everything that's happened with your family?
I wouldn't say worrying. I'd say that I'm cautious. In fear. The fear don't live here. I belong to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I'm covered in the blood of Jesus Christ, and I've seen it all. As far as cautious, yes, of course, cautious. Especially now with that I'm, I guess, apparently popular. I don't know what to say, but now I'm like everywhere. So now people recognize me everywhere. And I'm with my wife and kid.
Yeah. They're gonna recognize you before you recognize anybody. You know what I'm
saying? And then I don't wanna put my kids in a position that they see me turn to a savage. So now it's like back in the days. I either got one or two giants with me at all times now. Don't get me wrong. I'll sit down and have lunch with my kids, and people respect that. And I found that lately, a lot of people respect that. And I'm like, yo, how cool. They're not messing with me. Yeah.
So now that you have your daughter, you said she's 2?
Yes, sir.
So now that you have a 2-year-old, you're kind of, I guess, not starting over, but it's a fresh start in terms of having a young child. What's your new outlook on parenting now that?
Oh, it's starting over, 100%. It's starting over, especially in the age difference. Because when was the last time you changed Pampers? Or when was the last time you had to heat the milk? If my kid's already grown, one's 14, one's 12.
Yeah,
it was a complete reculture shock. I had to be reprogrammed. And at the time, I was going through, my probation. And I got to be on my best behavior, and this little girl needs me. So I had to be daddy daycare again. Wifey was working as a paralegal. I was getting Pure Blanco off the ground, so I had to always be pendiente de mi niña. For her first couple months, she couldn't go to daycare. She's a little baby. I had to take care of her. So I would juggle that with the wifey. And God is great. The Lord provides in abundance, and we figured it out. But yeah, it was definitely restarting all over again. New woman, new child. Never had a daughter before, only had boys. So
one thing I can say about having babies or young kids is it'll humble you.
Oof.
For 100%. You changing diapers, you change, you feeding them, you gotta adhere to them. Like, it'll definitely humble you.
Yo, you know what the best part is about that is when you're changing a diaper, y hay una pila de mierda.
Un
mojonazo, right?
And you're in a state of shock because you didn't know something that size could shit that much.
on top of that, you somehow smudge your finger in that shit, and you keep it moving. And you keep it moving.
Yeah.
No, and your nails were extra long because you just forgot to cut them.
Right.
Fuck. It's something. Now I'm dealing with the terrible twos.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to, like, I want to potty train her, so I'm starting to potty train her, or the wife is trying to help, but So long story short, she will show me that I just pissed the shit myself, papi caca, and if I disregard it for 2 seconds, she's gonna show me.
Oh,
Like, look, you don't see the shit in my hand? I told you 2 minutes ago. Change me now. You know? So that's what I'm going through now.
How did your wife get along with your sons?
It was a process, but they were good kids, man. My boys, I'm very militant with my children. Sometimes I think I was too strict because I didn't want them to come out like I did, or I always wanted them to remember that we're fucking warriors, that they come from bloodlines of kings. So I trained them in the martial arts since they were 5 years old. I had two professional gyms, so they grew up around professional fighters. When they first started, they were being trained by world champion in karate, and then they got into MMA and Muay Thai, wrestling. Now my other one's wrestling now. He had 8 tournaments this season. His goal is to be a college grad and a professional UFC fighter, and the kid is disciplined out. And I was very yes sir, no sir with them. So, yeah.
What would you say, Michael? As far as how you're raising your kids and the things that you're trying to teach them, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned, from your experiences that you try to impart onto them as they're developing and growing?
I don't know. I guess as fathers, we don't want them to learn by experience, because if you grew up in the 90s, I grew up in California and in Miami. So in the 90s, you had to experience stuff hands-on. And I guess, I don't know. I guess my thing would be just to make them have knowledge before they try anything that could put them in harm's way. Or I'm constantly stressing to my kids about, who you hang around with and all that, like people that, that are just bad to be around. And I constantly understand, like I said, I'm very militant with my kids. So I always tell them, kids, what does everybody have? And they say a double agenda. And I always tell my children, what are we at? We are what? Aware of our surroundings. Children, what are we? We are lions. What do lions do? They eat lambs, Papi. I'm going to eat. And that's just how we are. Yeah. I always try to, just to make them understand that that they have to be better than me. So I guess that's why I had to tell them the truth, or the truth also, because, it's better for them to hear from the horse's mouth and let me tell them, don't believe the hype. Everybody thinks it's this, and that, yeah. But I'm telling you from experience, it's rough. Kids, you got it easy. Don't ever do what I did. And Daddy wasn't around. I neglected my family sometimes, and I guess I'll never do that again, because I want them to understand. I wouldn't want the next man to teach my kids something. You feel me?
My brother, appreciate you doing this, man. We could talk forever. But
guys, appreciate you.
Because we have kids, we all trying to stick to a strict schedule. But you're always welcome back. And hey, are you gonna do season 2 of Cartel Crew? What's going on?
Gentlemen, can't really talk about it.
But all right, well, come back when you sign the papers.
All right, guys, I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man. Anytime you want to come through.
Yeah, right, I'm personally looking forward to that book. So when that comes out, I'm copping a few of them joints.
For sure.
I got you guys, man. For sure.
My brother. Good looking out, though.
You guys, man. Big hug. God bless you guys, and God bless your families.
All right, man. You too.
Peace.
All right, one.